All right, everybody, welcome back into Sports and Money, Pro Football GM. I hope you're doing well. I've got a little bit different video today. The first two that I posted on here were extremely analytical. We spent, 30, 45 minutes on each, studying Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson. Those videos are up if you want to see them. Today, I guess welcome to Talk Radio on YouTube today. I'm going to cover the quarterbacks in today's draft, in the draft coming up in about 3 months. And then I want to talk about Brian Flores and Flores and Bienemy for just a little bit at the end. But I want to start with the quarterbacks. Nothing in depth today. I haven't done a ton of homework on this stuff. This is just general observations I've made as I've watched the football season. And I've started to go back through and rewatch the football season again, as I try to do every year. I can't watch every game, but I try to watch as many games as I can live as the season goes through. And then once the season's over, that basically gives me 8 months, I guess, to go back and watch as many games as I can, not only at the NFL level, but at the college level too. So that's what I'm in the process of doing right now. Let's talk about the quarterbacks in the draft. To me, and again, I haven't done a deep dive on this, but to me, there are about 6 guys worth considering in the draft. I don't really like calling guys quarterbacks day 1 picks and day 2s and day 3s. At the quarterback spot, I just don't think that's an accurate way to get a handle on these guys. My preferred way to look at it is you either have a franchise quarterback that you're looking at drafting. He's got that level of talent. Whether or not he follows through on it, he's got that level of talent. After that, you've got starter quality. And basically what that means to me is here's a guy who can move the chains. Here's a guy who, if you put a decent team around him, both offense and defense, he can get you to the playoffs. Probably not ever going to win you a Super Bowl unless everything else on the roster just clicks that year. But here's a guy who keeps you competitive. So to me, that's second level starter. Then there's backup level. These are guys who I'm not drafting in the first round or the second round, and maybe not even the third round, to be honest. But if I've got an entrenched starter and I'm looking for somebody to come in as a backup and just give me a chance to win football games, that's the level of a backup to me. And then everybody else fits in the clipboard carrier category, okay? These are guys who are probably never going to see the light of day in a real NFL football game, okay? And no offense to them, a lot of them are smart guys and good guys, but not talented enough to be on an NFL football field throwing the football around, okay? So to me, there's 6 guys. 6 guys worth considering strongly, and almost everybody else is in the clipboard category section this year, okay? So I've got Kenny Pickett as the top guy at the moment. I'm not convinced of that, but at the moment, he's my top guy. I like the way he throws the football. I like the fact that he can run. I really like, and this is what I most like about Pickett, I like how competitive he is. He seems to want to win every play and every game. And that matters a lot. That matters at the quarterback spot. It matters at other spots, but it especially matters at the quarterback spot. And I like Kenny Pickett the best. And when you look at everything that he can do, he seems the most balanced. He's not just average at these things. He's good at throwing the football. He's good at running the football. And he's very competitive. And so I like that. I don't have him listed as a franchise guy. I don't think this guy is a lock. I don't think this guy is necessarily going to carry you to a Super Bowl. But I think if you put the right roster around him, I think if you've got a head coach that provides a good solid foundation, and I've got a specific team in mind, I don't think they're going to get a chance to draft him, but I think if you put the right guy around him, I think Kenny Pickett can be a quality starter in the NFL, and I think he can win you some games, and I think he can get you into the playoffs and maybe even do a little bit of damage in the playoffs, okay? The team I would love to see him on, and I didn't just do this because of geography, the team I would love to see Kenny Pickett land on is the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mike Tomlin, okay? Now, I don't think that's going to happen. The Steelers picking number 20, I don't think Pickett's going to last that long. I think he's going to go a lot earlier than that. So I don't think that's going to happen. But for me, Kenny Pickett's the top guy, and I like the Steelers. I like how solid the Steelers are. I like how good Mike Tomlin is. I think Mike Tomlin would do very well at coaching Kenny Pickett, and I think the Steelers will be very well served to have a guy like that on their team. I like the competitiveness. Doesn't hurt that he comes from the same region, but that has nothing to do with why I'm putting him there. I just like Kenny Pickett's attitude and his abilities. I like his attitude and his abilities fitting with the Pittsburgh franchise, not only with the way they think and the way they seem to conduct themselves, but with Mike Tomlin specifically. I think Mike Tomlin is one of the best head coaches in the NFL. Maybe not the best, but one of the best. I think he brings a solid work ethic every time out, and I think he would know how to handle a young quarterback. Now, is he interested in that? Maybe not. Okay, Tomlin may not want anything to do with the rookie quarterback. I don't know. Okay, Tomlin may only want a veteran quarterback in there. That may be what happens. But, excuse me. I would love to see Kenny Pickett go there. I would love to see the Steelers get him. Would I like to see the Steelers draft up for him? Yes, depending on how much they have to give up, okay? I don't mind, if they're going to give up a first rounder from 1 year and maybe a second and a third from another year. I haven't added up the draft values at all. But, yeah, I would be interested in seeing the Steelers move up to get him, and I would be interested in seeing him play for the Steelers. I think that would be a very good matchup, both for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers and also for Kenny Pickett. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he may end up on the Panthers. Very good chance of that. Panthers need a solid quarterback. They've been looking for a while, okay? So he could end up on the Panthers, or he could end up at several other organizations. You never know exactly what these teams are thinking about these quarterbacks. We hear everything leading up to the draft, and 90% of it turns out to go the opposite of what we've been saying, okay, or what we've been hearing. So Kenny Pickett at the top. I think he's a starter-level quarterback, not a franchise-level quarterback. I've got second, Matt Corral. Okay, Matt Corral out of Ole Miss. Assuming he comes back from the injury, I'm assuming that he will. He's not the first guy to have the injury or to come back stronger from it. Assuming he comes back strong off that injury, I would love to see Matt Corral end up with the Washington Commanders. Two reasons for that, okay? Number one, Ron Rivera, again, I don't think Ron Rivera is a top 10 NFL head coach, but he's a solid guy. He'll build a solid football team. They will execute well. They will play solid defense for the most part, most years. They will do certain things on offense usually. Solid head coach, solid. He brings, even though the organization itself hasn't been solid over the years, Ron Rivera is. Ron Rivera is a solid guy. What I like even more about the Washington Commanders is Scott Turner. Scott Turner is the offensive coordinator. And I like Scott Turner's ability to think outside the box. I like his ability to get receivers open. I like his ability to teach quarterbacks. And I think Scott Turner and Matt Corral would be a great match because Matt Corral is pretty accurate, has decent arm strength, and is pretty good at running the football. Matt Corral isn't great at any of those things, but he's good at all of those things. And he would give Scott Turner, the offensive coordinator, a lot of things to work with there in Washington. I think there's a very good chance that could happen. We'll see, but I think that's a good match. I really like Scott Turner's play calling ability. They haven't scored a ton of points in Washington, but they also don't have a ton of talent there in Washington. No doubt about it. They've been in the bottom third of the league, more or less, offensively for the past couple of seasons. But when you watch the video, you turn on the tape, you see the play designs, you see who's playing quarterback for Washington, and you realize Scott Turner's not doing a bad job there in Washington. And Ron Rivera has allowed Scott Turner. Typically, Ron Rivera has been a much more run-first kind of a guy and pass to the tight end. And if you've got the deep throw, go ahead and hit it. If not, we're moving back to the tight end and running the football. But Ron Rivera has let Scott Turner put together a modern offense that gets the ball to the running backs and gets the ball to the receivers and gets the ball to the slot, gets the ball spread around, and he's done that with Taylor Heinicke at quarterback for most of last year, and not a whole heck of a lot better at the quarterback spot the year before. So I like Scott Turner's modern offense with Ron Rivera's stability mixed with Matt Corral, assuming that he shows back up healthy, and I think that it will. I think that's a good matchup. After that, I've got Malik Willis. The opinions on Malik Willis go all the way up to top 10 pick to maybe he doesn't get drafted in the first round at all. Here's what I love about Malik Willis. I love his arm. He has a cannon of an arm. He can blast the football all over the field. cannon of an arm, just boom of an arm. An extreme, probably I think the strongest arm in the draft. It explodes. Probably the fastest quarterback in the draft. He's an extreme kind of guy. Smart guy, likable guy. You can tell the first 30 seconds you listen to Malik Willis talking on camera, you can tell the lights are on upstairs for this guy. Very likable, very intelligent. I really like Malik Willis in all of those areas. What I don't like about Malik Willis is the accuracy. I don't always like the decision making. We saw a strand or a thread of interceptions during his last year with Liberty. And I also don't like the win-loss column for Malik Willis. Malik Willis was a transcendent athlete compared to anybody else he was playing against during most of his time there at Liberty. And yet they won a lot of games, but not as many as I would have thought that they would have won. You can go back through and look at the one-loss schedule, and you're seeing them lose to teams that, quite frankly, you would expect them to win with when they had a transcendent guy at quarterback, and they did. Malik Willis has the wheels. He is so fast. Watching him run, I think it was at the Senior Bowl, watching him run around that day in the game, just unbelievably fast, the way he can turn on the wheels and run away from people, okay? Unbelievably fast, huge arm, but I question the accuracy a little bit. I question the decision-making more, and so I really like Malik Willis. Where's he going to go? I really couldn't find a place for sure that I loved Malik Willis, but some of the places that I thought maybe where would I like to see Malik Willis go, regardless of where these teams are in draft order. Maybe the Carolina Panthers. It would be exciting to watch him there. Again, I'm not sure that's the team that he really needs to be on, but maybe the Carolina Panthers. Watching him play with the Broncos, they've got pretty good roster already there. He would bring a lot of excitement there. Excuse me. Let him play there. That would be fun to watch him play there. I'm interested to see what you guys think about Malik Willis. Those of you who are, and again, I've just started this channel, so I'm running a couple of other channels. I'm interested to see what you guys think about Malik Willis. Excuse me, and what team you would like to see him play for, because he is an extreme guy. Huge arm, huge speed, huge intellect, very likable. Accuracy, interceptions, decision making, not so much. So I'm interested to see. Post it in the comments. If we get enough comments, we'll show it. We'll talk about him in the next video. Malik Willis, maybe Cleveland if they're willing. Excuse me. I've got dust in the studio today. Maybe Cleveland if they're willing to move on from Baker Mayfield. He'll be due a lot of money next offseason anyway. Maybe they're just ready to reset with a new quarterback. They've got a decent roster there. You've got the running backs. Maybe you could kind of sort of do what Baltimore is doing with Lamar Jackson. Lots of running game, lots of innovation. I would love to see Willis. I'll say this, and I'll shut it down on Malik Willis. I would love to see Malik Willis go somewhere that they will allow him to be himself. If they try to turn him into a traditional stand in the pocket kind of an NFL quarterback, that franchise shouldn't be drafting Malik Willis, because that's just not him. But if they're willing to be creative, if they're willing to let him run the football, if they're willing to move the pocket for him, if they're willing to let him bootleg, if they're willing to put all the receivers, or not put all the receivers, if they're willing to curl all the wide receiver routes over to one side of the football field, get him over on that side of the field, give him a lot of options, give him some RPOs. If they're willing to do that, that's the kind of franchise that should be drafting Malik Willis. And again, I don't have anybody specific in mind for that, but that's the kind of team that really needs to be drafting Malik Willis. Not your standard NFL pocket kind of guys. They don't need to be drafting. And there's lots of franchises that would absolutely ruin Malik Willis, not only because they don't have the offensive line in place, but because they don't have the OC and the head coach in place in order to take care of him and teach him to do better and give him that foundation. There's a lot of franchises that have no business drafting Malik Willis because they would absolutely ruin him. And I'm not going to call those franchises out, but that's just a fact. So I'd love to see Malik Willis go somewhere where they will teach him about decision making a little bit better, but where they will allow him to be who he is. And he's a super fast athlete with a cannon arm who I think guys in the locker room will respond to, all right? So I love all of that about Malik Willis. That's it for starter level guys. I don't personally see any franchise level quarterbacks in this draft. Not personally. I see 3 guys who I think could be quality starters in the NFL, assuming they get to the right place. We've all seen it. We've seen other quarterbacks who we thought had a chance, and they end up somewhere where the franchise basically ruins them, either because the offensive line is so pitiful, or because the play calling is so pitiful, or because the atmosphere is so pitiful. But those are the 3 guys: Willis, Pickett, Corral. Very quickly moving on, I've got Desmond Ritter, Sam Howell, and Carson Strong as backups. Some people like them. If you do, that's fine. I'm not going to pitch a fit about that. But when I look at Desmond Ritter, and when I look at Sam Howell, and when I look at Carson Strong, I don't see guys that I want starting for me in the NFL. I see guys who might give me a chance to back up if my starter gets injured. Excuse me, if my starter goes down. I see 3 guys right there who might give me a chance as a backup. I would think, I don't know, I would think Carson Strong might be a decent fit for the Colts. The Colts seem to run a pretty tight operation. They like to throw the ball to the tight ends. They like to hand the ball off. They like to do a lot of more big stuff, and Carson Strong seems to fit that mold with his ability, his accuracy. But again, I'm not sure I want Carson Strong to be a starter, and I'm also not sure that the Colts are looking for a rookie to be starting at quarterback for them. I really like Frank Reich, in spite of a couple of obvious failures. I really like what Frank Reich is doing there for the Colts. After that, those 3 guys, Desmond Ritter, Sam Howell, Carson Strong, I've got them lined up as backups in the NFL. After that, to me, everybody else is just a clipboard carrier in the NFL. They're 3rd string or practice squad. That's just the way I see it. That includes guys from small colleges, guys from big colleges. It is not a quarterback-rich draft. That's not to say somebody can't step up and do something here, but that's just the way I see the quarterback position for the draft this year. All right, that's it for quarterbacks. I want to talk about 2 guys very quickly and switch gears here a little bit. Brian Flores and Flores and Bienemy. Their situations interest me a lot, and I'm not going to get on a platform and talk about issues today, but I want to specifically talk about these 2 guys. Brian Flores getting fired from Miami. They've asked him to move on. Now he's involved in a lawsuit. I'm not going to spend much time talking about the lawsuit today, but for me personally, Brian Flores, lawsuit or not, can come and coach for me anytime. Now, I'm not saying that he's one of the top 5 head coaches in football. I don't think he's proved that yet. But I do think that Brian Flores took rosters that were quite honestly pretty pathetic in all 3 of his seasons and got much more out of them than a lot of other coaches would have. He took a lot of straw and a lot of hay and built some pretty decent houses with it, okay? He took teams that I didn't think should be anywhere near the playoffs and got them, not in the playoffs, but got them to winning records or 500 records more than once. I really like the work that Brian Flores did as a head coach. I don't think he should have been fired from Miami. I think the Dolphins let the wrong guy go. I think the Dolphins should have let Chris Grier go. Chris Grier's been there, and I don't mean to tear people down, but Grier's been there for several seasons. The talent base has not been elevated. The win-loss record has not been elevated. The depth of talent is not there. The stars are not there. There's nothing there to suggest, talent-wise, that the Dolphins are anything even close to average in the NFL from a talent level standpoint. And I really thought Brian Flores did a great job getting more out of those rosters than he ever should have, and more than a lot of coaches in the NFL probably would have. Excuse me. And I thought Brian Flores should have stayed on. I think the Dolphins should have let go of their general manager. Now, could Brian Flores perhaps have played a little bit nicer in the sandbox? Yeah, maybe. Okay. Is Brian Flores, pretty much going to speak his mind and not hide his thoughts on pretty much any issue? Yeah, I think so, based on what I've seen from him. Do we all, as people and as career-oriented people, do we all have room to grow? Yes. Does Brian Flores have room to grow as a head coach? Playing with others? Yeah, probably. Okay. He reminds me a little bit of Tom Coughlin. And Tom Coughlin, as far as I know, didn't have issues with the front office, but Coughlin was having major issues with players. some people liked him and respected him, and other people were like, get me away from that guy. And Tom Coughlin was basically, even though he won a lot in Jacksonville, Coughlin was able to completely reinvent himself with the New York Giants and lead them to 2 Super Bowl victories over the New England Patriots, no less. So Brian Flores kind of reminds me of that. Here's a guy who I think knows how to win in the NFL and probably could use a little bit of growth, maybe a little bit more polish, maybe just a little bit more let me think before I speak, but that's okay. Brian Flores can come coach football for me anytime, anywhere. If I've got a head coaching vacancy, I'll take Brian Flores, not just for my defense, but for my head coach. I am convinced that he can take a roster and lead it to a lot more success than that roster might actually deserve if you look at the individual pieces. Okay, how good can he be? I don't know. That probably depends on who he's hiring at coordinators and how much he grows as a person, as a head coach. Okay, we've all got the room to grow. But the Dolphins should have kept Brian Flores. To me, there's no doubt about it. Can he play a little bit nicer? Yes. But I thought the Dolphins should have let go of the general manager. One other spot, and we'll be done. We'll try to keep this video under 25 minutes. Eric Bienemy. Eric Bienemy has been the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs for quite a while now. It's easy to say, well, he's under Andy Reid, and he's got Patrick Mahomes, so he should be good. And that's probably all true. And there's no guarantee. There is no guarantee that Eric Bienemy will be a great head coach in the NFL. But there never is. There are all kinds of guys that get hired every single season who either have a good resume or a decent resume, but they've never been a head coach. And there is never a guarantee that those guys are going to be good at their job, but they get a chance. They get the chance to show it. And no matter what you think about Eric Bieniemy's resume and how brilliantly it may shine, or no matter what you may think about, well, he's had a lot of toys to play with, so he should be winning a lot, and he should be racking up a lot of statistics. No matter what you think about that, Eric Bieniemy has been in the NFL long enough, has served his time long enough, has a resume good enough to where he deserves a shot too. And we've seen lots of guys with lots of resumes who weren't as good as his, who get NFL head coaching jobs, and that's fine. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have gotten those jobs, but Eric Bieniemy has deserved a shot now for probably a couple of years. And I don't like the fact that he hasn't gotten one. I really wish that Jacksonville had let go of their general manager, whom apparently very few people in the NFL like, and who does not have a recent track record of success at all. I wish Jacksonville had let go of that general manager, and I wish the Jaguars had picked up the phone and called Eric Bieniemy and hired him to be their head coach. I would have loved to have seen, because I think Eric Bieniemy brings a lot of solidarity and a lot of consistency and a good, strong foundation. I would love to have seen Eric Bieniemy be the head coach for Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence has gotten off to a rocky start. I think there's still time to help him become quite a quarterback. He was a heck of a quarterback at Clemson. He was a brilliant quarterback in high school. I think Trevor Lawrence can be a winning NFL quarterback, but I would have loved to have seen it be Eric Bieniemy be the guy to do that. No disrespect to Byron Leftwich, okay? Byron Leftwich deserves a shot at some point too. I understand he was in-house, but the guy I would have called would have been Eric Bieniemy, okay? That's the guy who has worked with another quarterback, who has a big arm, who knows how to run the football with Patrick Mahomes, who has been around an innovative mind with Andy Reid, and who has a resume of winning, and who has shown the ability to adjust. We saw it this year in 2021. It took them about a month, but after a month, they made a ton of offensive adjustments. After about 6 weeks, you started to see those offensive adjustments kick in. By later in the season, even though it wasn't the same Chiefs offense, they were once again moving the football, scoring the football. They were back, I think, in the top 5 in most of the offensive statistical categories. You can see on the film, you can see Eric Bieniemy making those adjustments, and you don't know how good he can be until you give him a chance, just like all the other guys. I think what bothers me the most is watching other guys get second chances as coaches when they were really bad the first time, okay? I'm not going to call names because I don't want it to be one person versus another, but we've seen several guys do really bad in their first head coaching job, Some of them turn right around and get another head coaching job immediately. Others of them go off and be a coordinator for 3 or 4 years and then come back and get a second chance. Meanwhile, Eric Bienemy is still carrying around the clipboard for Patrick Mahomes, okay? So that bothers me a lot, and I would love to see Eric Bienemy get his shot sooner rather than later. He deserves it. And again, I'm not trumping issues here. This is just Bienemy deserves a shot. I wish Jacksonville would have called. I wish they would have let their general manager go. I think they would have been much better off for it. All right, we have talked a lot today. Again, this isn't in depth. This is just some of the stuff that I had ready for trying to get some content out. I'm working on a video for Ikem Ekwonu, trying to go through the video. I just haven't had the time to get in depth on him yet, but the offensive tackle from NC State, so that'll probably be my next in-depth video. Ikem Ekwonu, left tackle for NC State, probably coming up in 2, 3, 4 weeks, something like that. All right, thank you so much for listening. Have a great one. Goodbye.